I work in the Universidad Politécnica de Madrid in Spain. We also are part of the VITALISE project with one living lab here in Madrid, integrated in the university. And I'm a biomedical engineer and a UX researcher mainly right now, working here.
Hi everyone, my name is Paraskevik Jurka. I work for Anthology Ventures, which is also an organization participating in the VITALISE project. Anthology Ventures is a venture studio, and it incubates startups, helping them to mature their business ideas and their business concepts and prepare them for investment readiness. And in VITALISE, our key role is in researching the exploitation potential of innovations developed within the project, and also exploring the innovation potential of the project, the VITALISE project results. Thank you.
That everybody will be seeing the slides. Okay, we have today quite an extensive amount of information, and today agenda will be concluding definition and sources for innovation. We talk a little bit about innovation typology and examples of the different innovation types. Then we discuss about that, how we are making a transition from closed to collaborative innovation. And also a little bit talking about that, what does it take to operate in innovation ecosystems. We present that the Living Labs is not the only collaborative innovation term that is existing. There are actually a lot of them. We talk about the variation in research development and innovation processes. We discuss about the from user-centered design to implementation science, and what kind of a journey is that one. And then we discuss about increasing the maturity of the innovation. And today you will be getting also the one homework, which we'll be discussing at the very end of the presentation. And at the very end, we also have some time for the question and answers. And meanwhile, when we are presenting, you can put your questions in the chat, and we will be collecting them and discuss about those in the very end. Okay, but let's jump to the actual topic about the definition and sources of innovation. So what is the difference between idea and innovation? To me, it's the idea is always the starting point. It's a plan or intention to create something practical application. And the idea changes to innovation during the successful execution process. So basically, you cannot have an innovation unless there's a successful execution. And in order to become an innovation, there must be a significant positive change, improvement, or some kind of an advancement. There are multiple definitions for innovation, and there's one, for example, that it's a multi-stage process whereby organization transform the ideas into new and improved product, services, or processes, and in a way to compete and differentiate themselves successfully in the marketplace. But it's just the one definition. And it's very important also to understand that depending on which kind of a scientific domain you are coming from, either from business and management, economy, marketing, innovation, entrepreneurship, they all have, at least in scientific, the literature, they all have kind of a different viewpoint. What is an innovation? On the left-hand side, you can see the kind of the key types, what people were discussing about within each of these domain, like nature of the innovation is new change. Somebody's talking about improvement and so forth. What kind of an innovation we are creating? Products, processes, services, technical, and so forth. And what are the stages which innovation is kind of covering? And that's why they introduced this kind of an diagrammatic definition of innovation. And in here is the stages, is kind of referring all the steps what we take during the innovation process. And normally we start from the idea generation and we will be ending up in the commercialization. Social context is kind of the ecosystem and environment where we are operating. In some cases, people are talking about the innovation ecosystem. Means is what you have, the necessary resources that you will be needing to create those innovations, whether it's a technical, creative, financial. And nature refers to the form of innovation, what is been, how it's new and how it's improved. Type refers to it's a product, service, process, technical. And the aim, which is of course the most important one, is that, what kind of an impact this innovation will have, how it's going to be differentiating yourself from the competitors and so forth. But during this presentation, we try to address all of these different items in order to cover what is the innovation in general. And there are a lot of different sources where you can start finding out when you're starting to innovating. There are this kind of an unexpected occurrences, surprises, people talking about the serendipity, which is basically kind of the happy accident. We have processes, practical necessities. Industry and markets are changing. There are demographic changes, changes in perceptions. Like, for example, if we look time back in the 10, 15 years ago, sustainability wasn't that big issue comparing to what is it at the moment. We are all the time creating new knowledge, technologies, and finding new discoveries. Then the other approach is kind of, and then we can look innovation within the firm, using only the internal knowledge of the organization or the company. And we can do the innovation for the customer where there's no active involvement, but we use like market analysis, showrooms, or something like that. We can innovate together with the customers, or customer can be the innovator, or we can use third parties like using inventors, universities, independent research laboratories as a sources of innovation. And there are a lot of these kind of examples in the history of innovations, like penicillin is probably one of the most well-known examples, that how the researcher was coming back from the holidays and find mold growing in these petri dishes, and when they were kind of starting to analyze it, they realized that okay, it's preventing the bacteria around it from growing. Or my microwave oven, that the person had a chocolate bar in his pocket and it melted when he went to nearby this kind of an source that was produced in microwave oven. Or ice creams, the ice cream cone. Ice cream vendor is running out of the paper cups, and next to a crisp vendor, which is kind of a waffle-like pastry, offered a solution. So in many cases, there are a lot of these kind of let's say accidents or occurrences that nobody was expecting, but still kind of quite great innovation come out of those. If we dig down a little bit more deeper in these different innovation types, it can be a product or quality, new production methods or process, or we can open a new market, or develop new sources of supply or raw materials or semi-finished goods, or new industry structure or organization. And already this is coming from the 1934. This is basically the kind of the starting of the innovation literature, this Joseph Schumpeter's 5 innovation types. And this is kind of an important, because depending on what kind of an innovation you are trying to develop, of course, the practices and the processes and resources, what you are doing will be different. And because this whole webinar series is about the living labs, in many cases, we are developing some kind of product innovation or application, digital applications. That's quite common what we do. And also the kind of process innovations, we are doing a lot of also those, as well as business model innovation. And like I say that whenever you are using currently like public funding for your project, sustainability, eco-innovations are really important aspects what to do. Social innovation. And for example, when comparing the social innovation against the product innovation, it's quite different capabilities and the kind of the environment where you are working if you want to be developing social innovation instead of the product innovation. Also, nowadays, also with the Living Labs, the data-driven innovation has been raising quite a lot recently. And as a part of our VITALISE project, we also have been developing this kind of a taxonomy for different devices that Living Labs are using in the health and well-being domain. The idea is some kind of to provide the framework or taxonomy so that newcomers in the Living Lab field could be seen that what kind of an opportunities you will have to collect the data. Or we have the technology-driven innovation, which focus emphasize the advancements of the technology, like nowadays we have the AI and blockchains. Yeah, that kind of topics are really hot topics at the moment. And then, for example, the bottom of the pyramid innovation, where you are targeting the people with the lowest incomes, which are often living in the developing and emerging economies. So those are the kind of the very typical types of an innovation. And when you are starting your project, you have to be kind of considering that what is, the special features or things that you will be needing, depending on what innovation type you are doing. And then we also promised to talk about a little bit about the business model innovation. And I think that the business model canvas is probably the most well-known approach to kind of define the business models, and which is it includes this different key elements like key partners. So with who you are collaborating, what are your key activities, what are your key resources, what is your value proposition, what kind of customer relationships you will have, what kind of channels you are using, who are your customer segments, what is your cost structure and revenue streams. And in one of the previous projects what we had, we defined the health and well-being Living Lab business model attributes. So basically on the left-hand side, you can see all of those business model canvas main elements. And on the right-hand side, you can see that the more greener the particular item is within each of the element, the more popular that is within the health and well-being Living Labs. And for example, key partners, the most common key partners are for Living Labs are research organization, educational organization, regional public organization, device manufacturers, networks, and clusters. And like in the case of, for example, revenue streams, clearly the project grants and fixed or permanent funding are the key items for revenue sources for the Living Labs. And later on, when you are discussing about the fundamentals of the Living Labs, is kind of, and you could be seen as well that how these are linked to the all the activities that Living Labs are doing. But then we can take totally different viewpoint to the business model options. There's another publication about which we're kind of defining like 55 business model options, which each is kind of different. But what you can do, you can kind of combine multiple business model items together. Like for example, number 18, freemium, has been very popular among the digital service provider, where you get like first you get free of charge service with the limited functionalities, and when you want to be the increasing features or what capacity of disk space or whatever, then you have to be paying some extra. But I think that you will get all of these slides, and there are these links to the these particular publications. If you read this, you will get a pretty good overview that what kind of an options you will have. Other thing is also because the sustainability has become so kind of vital for us. Then there are different versions of this business model canvas where we have been emphasizing the kind of sustainability issues. And I think it's very similar in here comparing to this living lab approach, what we were doing. There are, for example, for the circular economy, we have the different options how we can, for example, provide services, different options how we can do the circular economy things like facilitating collaboration, introduce take-back management, customer education, waste handling, and so forth. And I think these kind of models that are present in the scientific literature are very valuable for you when you are starting, the innovating within your projects, because in many cases it's very hard to come up with the kind of the totally new ideas out of the box. But when you have these kind of materials with you, you can easily kind of feed the imagination that, okay, I understand these are my options and what I can do. And also, more importantly, that if you can come up with something which goes beyond these options, then you will be knowing that, okay, this is something totally new, which is, of course, one of the key items in the innovation. We have incremental and radical innovation, basically meaning that incremental, we do small changes over course of a long time, or the radical innovation, which also been called as disruptive breakthrough, discontinuous, and so forth. The idea is that this kind of groundbreaking ideas that significantly disrupt or transform existing industries or the markets. But of course, those are much more difficult to do and achieve. Then we can have looked at innovation a bit differently from the meaning point of view and the technological point of view. We can have a technological radical change in technology, or we can have an incremental change in technology, as well as in meaning, incremental change in meaning or radical change in the meaning. And then we will be ending up like this technology push innovation, where there's a radical change, but there's no change in the meaning of the products. Like, for example, we are increasing the speed of the computer chip, or we have more disk space. It's still the computer, it's operating exactly the same as previously, but it's a better quality or higher capacity or whatever. And on the market pool innovation, starts from analyzing the user needs and develops a solution to satisfy them. And then we have the meaning-driven innovation, which is the radical change in meaning, but still incremental change in technology. Like for example, in this particular publication, because this is referring also to social cultural regimes, with kind of introduced radically new meanings and languages, and they were using like miniskirt from the 1960s as an example. It was beyond the miniskirt. It was the liberation of the women and so forth. And then we have the technology efficiency, meaning that we have the radical change in meaning as well as radical change in technology. And for example, I would be saying like the introduction of really the iPhone, at least to me, was kind of the breaking. We had already like Nokia phones, which were all the time kind of increasing putting the higher battery life, making phones smaller. But in a way, when the iPhone was introduced, that it was integrating everything what we know now as mobile phone, that was the kind of the really disruptive innovation within the markets. And then if we're thinking about that, what kind of research we are doing within the living labs, we can kind of consider the consideration of practically, are we doing that, or are we not doing that? Or novelty of the interpretation of the meanings. The kind of, and what we try to do is, of course, the kind of design-driven research thing, in a way that where we're trying to put things in practical context. Of course, because we want to be innovating and not just researching, and that's the kind of very essence of the Living Lab approach as well, in a way that we are not just researching on or developing, but we want to be doing those together in order to kind of aiming to create the new meanings that that are applied in the new products. But of course, in many cases, we are operating kind of the more incremental changes. So how we do the transition from the closed collaboration innovation to the operating in innovation ecosystems? And the closed innovation is that, by definition, it says that kind of we are only using the organization internal resources, while in open innovation we are leveraging the ideas and expertise from outside. But in here, when the CESPRO was defining the open innovation originally, he was mainly talking about the one company point of view. And the European Commission has been pushing out this Open Innovation 2.0, where they are kind of transforming, not only discussing about the one company doing something, but actually the whole ecosystem doing the innovation, in which the kind of the power balance is switched in a way that users are active participants and doing the innovation together, as well as the wealth generation should be shared with the users and service providers in a way. So transferring this pyramid in opposite way, comparing the traditional approach where the companies are providing, creating innovation, pushing them into market. And so what is the difference between these three? There's a list of the different items. What is a different? And I think that in the middle of the closed innovation, there's one organization acting kind of by their own. Open innovation is bilateral, but Open Innovation 2.0 is an ecosystem. It's a cross-fertilization between different actors. We do a triple, quadruple helix collaboration. We do experimentations. We orchestrate. There's win more situation where everybody's trying to win. There's no boxes. It's interdisciplinary. It focuses on value constellation. And here I have been listing the key features of the collaborative innovation. It's about the diversity of the perspectives, bringing together individuals with the different background, skills, and perspectives. And the idea is a kind of fostered creativity, which allows the kind of broader range of ideas to be considered. And it's about open communication and sharing, because effective collaboration then also needs the kind of an open communication and sharing knowledge and insights, practices with the different people. They are cross-functional teams. We have the innovation ecosystems, which we talk about already. It's an iterative and adaptive process, because whenever you are following the iterative process, in each iteration, you will be learning new things. And that's why you have to be adapting your findings in a way. You cannot be going through the linear process. And it's a co-creation with the stakeholders, whether they are customers, suppliers, partners, policymakers, researchers. But to do that, you also need these kind of technical platforms and tools where you can facilitate either virtual face-to-face communication and information sharing among the collaborators, especially if the teams are geographically scattered around the world. And of course, now because of the COVID, each organization capabilities to do a collaboration virtually has increased tremendously, which is kind of also helping us to do more international collaboration. And there are shared resources, not including funding, facilities, research finding, intellectual property. And also as a part of this VITALISE project, we've been opening the Living Lab research infrastructures for the outsider researchers. And the idea is that kind of as a result of the VITALISE project, there will be kind of possibilities to access these different Living Lab infrastructures significantly easier than at the moment. It's about risk and reward sharing. And of course, the focus on the sustainable solutions. I would be saying that whatever you are at the moment innovating, there's always this sustainable, the viewpoint for that one. You just is kind of the mandatory to do at the moment. Then we will have a different kinds of innovation systems. An innovation system is kind of the thing that where the all important economic, social, political, organizational, institutional, and other factors that are influencing the development, diffusion, and use of innovation. We have the national level innovation systems. We have regional level innovation systems, sectoral innovation system, corporate innovation systems, and of course we have the European level innovation system, which the European Commission is kind of in the orchestrating. And then if you want to be knowing more about these innovation ecosystems, I would highly recommend these two papers on the right-hand side. Other one is kind of in the doing the systematic review of the current literature, and they are pinpointing all the key papers that has been published in this domain. And on the other hand, if you want to be understanding more about that, what is the typology for innovation ecosystem, then this Klimas Sargon paper is good for that one. But we've been also working a little bit with this kind of a maturity model for transnational Living Lab collaboration. And this was published a few years ago. And we have different levels of collaboration. At the lowest level, we are operating in a network, which is basically like ad hoc, chaotic, and informal efforts, where it's kind of activities are driven by the passion and interest of the individuals. And then when we are going to the coordinated network efforts, they will be like characterized by limited coordinated efforts, short-term, typically like project-based coordination. Like, for example, in the VITALISE project, we are now operating in the coordinated network. When we go to the cooperation level, there are some synchronized effort based on standardized and understood processes. And there is some infrastructure ensuring the continuity in between the projects. And for example, VITALISE project, what we've been trying to do is that we've been trying to now standardize or harmonize the services and the processes, how the Living Labs are working. So basically, they will be much easier to collaborate between the Living Labs, but also in a way that our Living Lab customers can much more easily compare the different Living Labs together and kind of find out that which Living Lab is best for them to be collaborating. And then we have a collaboration, which is basically like a joint activity strategies, goals, vision, and resources and knowledge. And this kind of collaborative working methods is widely accepted. In this particular model, we've been identifying a bunch of different sub-factors. So in environment sub-factor is including regulation and political and social climate. Membership sub-factor includes the partners, cost sharing, structural processes, including conflict management, commitment, engagement, structure, leadership. Communication is having the information management and internal and external communication. Goal and vision is about defining the goal and vision, and the resources, knowledge, human, technical, and financial. And the idea within this maturity model is that you can take each of these sub-factors and kind of look that what does it take for you to climb up in this collaboration ladder. And the model is defined in a way that it doesn't mean that you are progressing in all of these sub-factors at the same level, because some of these have to be defined before you can progress in the other domains. Like, for example, if you don't have any goal and vision, I think it might be very difficult to kind of start discussing about cost sharing and that kind of issues. But if you are interested in on this one, you could be using that as a tool for your own local networks and discuss about that what level the innovation ecosystem that I'm working is at the moment. And then we also, with the Living Labs, we were discussing about that, you know, what are the drivers and obstacles for this kind of transnational collaboration. And I think that many of these items will be valid also at the national, on the regional level. What they want to be, what is the most important parts for the transnational collaboration is the, you know, the improvement sharing of the Living Lab services, putting up with the reliable partner network, communication, marketing, getting a different market information and so forth. And what value do you get? What value Living Labs get if they are doing this kind of work is you get increased visibility and improve your marketing. You will develop then better to develop services and access to the other services. You will have access to knowledge and technologies. It increases your possibilities to get the international funding. But the difficult part in here is actually the kind of the regulation and different business cultures and these kind of different interests of each of the Living Labs, because not all the Living Labs are the same. Everybody has their own strategies and their own visions and the way of working. But also the problem has been previously that we don't actually have a very good understanding about the competence and what kind of competencies Living Labs has. But because of the VITALISE, we've been kind of throughout these harmonized services, we've been kind of been able to kind of put every Living Lab in the same kind of format. And then throughout that, I would be saying that because of the VITALISE, this kind of lack of information has improved greatly since 2020 when this study was done. But those are the kind of the key items in here. But then when it comes to the collaborative innovation terminology and the degrees of user involvement, a few years ago, I did a study about that. I wanted to know that what are the kind of terms that are related to this kind of human-centric, user-centric themes, and I started to collect the terms, and I think I ended about like 92 in this publication, and after that I've been increasing the number, which is about 108 or something like that. But and that is also kind of an important that if you want to be kind of understanding the Living Labs in a more general context, because we have a lot of literature also in the design thinking, service design. We have kind of the public participation, citizen science, participatory research, and all of these are using very similar approaches. And of course, depending on what you are you doing, is your purpose of designing something, or is it your purpose to, you know, do something for the city or whatever? In all of those has their different viewpoints. But in a way, I encourage you to look beyond the Living Labs or look beyond the design thinking to see that there are a lot of similarities between these different terms. And then what is the user-centric and human-centric innovation and design? So it's basically a philosophy, not precise set of the methods. And it starts like analyzing the user needs and then searches the technologies, methods, or solutions to better satisfy these needs. And it follows this iterative cycle of investigation. Many times we are observing, doing ideation phase, we have a erratic prototype and testing. And each iteration builds the kind of, and increases the knowledge what we use for the second iteration. And in a way that the process itself kind of terminates that, are we satisfied with the results, or do we have to still do another round? But also we have practical constraints like time or the money. And that's why we cannot normally do like infinite number of the iterations. But we have to make sure that the resulting solution is usable and understandable. But then I want to also a little bit kind of challenge this user-centric approach that Steve Jobs was once saying that it's their job to figure it out that what the customers want. And he was framing that people don't know what they want until you show it to them. And he wasn't that big of the market research fund, but of course they did the market research. But this is the kind of the possible drawback also for the human-centric research. If you think about this balance between the radical and incremental innovation, and I think it's sometimes good to stop and think about that. Are we doing too incremental innovation, or should we do something out of the box as well? But how you can get how you can leverage the external sources of innovation? First of all, you must obtain that information from these external sources, and you can have these kind of monetary or non-monetary incentives. For example, giving movie tickets if people are participating in some workshop, or non-monetary tickets that, okay, you get some name recognition if you are part of this. And then you of course need some kind of formal tools, processes, platforms where you can kind of produce and share the ideas and innovation. And of course you can combine these two. And depending on what kind of level collaboration you are doing, there are of course this kind of an explicit contracts and licensing agreements. And then one challenge in here is of course that let's say if you are running a crowdsourcing campaign and you get hundreds or thousands of replies, and how you kind of filter the best ones out of there. And you can do kind of an external intermediaries or the community or external contributors, or are you doing that inside your organization? But then also in a way that how you integrate the external knowledge within your own organization. And there's this term absorptive capacity, which is basically the ability to recognize the value of new information and assimilate and apply it to the commercial ends. Because in many cases, the company culture is that this is not invented here barrier. So if we didn't invent this, so it's much more difficult to sell within the company. And then you need, of course, the technical capabilities to assimilate the external innovation. And then when you are doing this commercialization, like for example, your solution will be reducing cost, or you are able to increase the prices because your solution is better than the other ones. And how you measure that if this kind of an external knowledge is improving your value creation, like are you able to release new products more than previously? Are your products performing better? Is your revenue growing? And so forth. Or like revenues per employee because of these new products. and how you're measuring the value capture. Is your cost reducing, or are you able to increase the prices? And then, of course, there is this kind of an interaction mechanism between all of these three, which kind of includes these feedback loops, reciprocal interactions with co-creation partners, and so forth, whether they are, you know, the competitors, universities, NGOs, and so forth. And then when you look these different types of actors which are mentioned in those different terms, then I was collecting them that in scientific terminology, we are often talking about the communities, we are talking about the public, we are talking about citizens, a crowd, civic, user, stakeholder, customer, maker, hacker, panel, and jury. And that's why, as a part of, for example, this VITALISE projects, because people come from the different backgrounds, is like, and for example, in this list doesn't include the patient, which is in the health and well-being. We are, in many cases, we are talking about the patients, not the customer or user, but the patient. So there are different terminologies that people are using to describe the users. And here's one model that you can kind of systematically manage the participant diversity in these collaborative innovation processes. What you can do to increase the participation is throughout the cultural diversity. That can be either like cultural diversity in terms of the people living in the different geographical areas, and that's why having a different cultural background. But it can also be like corporate culture. You have organizational diversity. In Living Labs context, we are often using the quadruple helix approach, which is the academia, public sector, private sector, and civic society. We have user-driven diversity. We have the users with the different capabilities, and we have to make our services accessible for all users. And we have these kind of lead user types or who are kind of super users. But when you are kind of thinking about that, what kind of users you are doing, you have to be also considering the user-driven diversity. We have cross-functional diversity. It's totally different thing if you're talking with the marketing people or with the engineers. But all of those are needed if you want to be kind of understanding the whole phenomenon. Or we have disciplinary or cross-industrial diversity, putting health people and the sustainable people together and so forth. But in a way, it just give you kind of a model that how you can think about that, which of these, you know, the diversity elements we are using within our project. And of course, there are kind of these different users group like primary users, secondary users, tertiary users, and also these kind of non-users which refers to the users who are not using the solutions at the moment, or are the consumers, citizens, employee, residents, or so forth. And then is the degree of user involvement. There are different models for that one, and the right-hand side is the ladder of citizen participation. It's a pretty famous model that kind of defines that at the bottom of the level, users or citizens are not considering at all, while at the top of the ladder, they have all the power and they are making the decisions. And in user-oriented innovation, we are often talking about the design for users, design with users, and design by user. So whether we are talking about user-driven innovation or user-oriented or user-centered innovation. And also kind of that, depending on the sources, what you are doing, the degree, people might understand the degree of user involvement differently. And this is, I think, a very good kind of a retake from this citizen ladder. So on the bottom of the page, we have the ignorance, stakeholder do not know what is happening. And the next three levels is kind of in the low participation level, that awareness where stakeholders know that something is happening, and information level, people will be receiving information, but it's typically one-way downward flow of information. And then in many cases, when we are talking about this kind of an citizen engagement, we have that consultation, that stakeholders are consulted. This is one way of upward flow of information, but at least to me, that's not real kind of a user engagement. Once we get to the higher levels, like discussion, two-way interactive relationship between stakeholders, or we do the co-design, stakeholders feel the sense of ownership and commitment, or co-decision making, where the stakeholder has mandate to act. And this is the kind of the other model that might be helpful for you, in a way that I was previously showing this kind of in the similar model for the Living Lab maturity model, where we have at the bottom of the stage, we have this kind of an unilateral participation, where the stakeholder works in the independent and non-transparent way, and there's no cooperation or little or no communication between the different teams or the network people. And then we have the coordination, where there's a regular communication and information exchange between the innovation teams. And then we have collaboration and joint actions. And if you take this as a part of this kind of a ladder model, you can see that, for example, co-decision is kind of them referring also at the same time to joint actions. And in a way, you could be using this two-dimensional matrix to kind of thinking about that. Are we really doing this, and what kind of the user engagement or stakeholder engagement we have to be reaching in order to do a collaboration or to do the joint action or coordination. Okay, and then just we look a little bit for the different variations of the research, development, and innovation processes. And to me, it's kind of we have research process, innovation process, and development process. And at least to me, the Living Lab innovation and process and services is kind of the clue between all of these three. And what these kind of mean is that when we are doing a research, by the definition, is a systematic and organized investigations, which is aiming to discover new knowledge, insights, or understanding about certain area. But it's not developing per se anything. And in the development, what we do, it's a systematic exploration and development of new or enhanced solutions, whether it's a product, services, process, methodology, or technologies, by investigating and testing hypotheses and conducting feasibility studies and prototyping. But you can do development, but not necessarily follow rigorous research methods. And innovation is all about creating and implementing new ideas, methods, products, and processes, which are resulting in significant improvement, advancement, and changes in the practical, and they have practical value, and they are contributing to societal and economic progress. So in a way, because Living Labs are using scientific methods to do their work, we are trying to push innovations, but we are also developing all the time. So that's why I'm arguing that we are kind of in the clue between all of these three. And very typical innovation, the research process includes the planning, preparation, implementation, and dissemination and valorization phases, where we kind of first identify the research problem. We conduct literature review and collect other relevant background information. We will have the research questions and hypotheses. We define the research design and define the sample. We find funding if we are needing, but we have to be selecting the infrastructure where we are doing the research. We seek for the ethical approval if that's needed. We recruit the participants. We do the data collection, we analyze it and interpret the results and write the research reports and disseminating our findings. And in a living lab process, we can do two different kinds of research. We can do exploratory or confirmatory research. And in a way, we conduct the exploratory research when we are trying to understand generating a better understanding of the subjects, or identify the potential research question, or create a foundation for more in-depth investigations. Whereas in confirmatory research, we are testing the hypotheses, and we have a clear and specific set of expectations. And we can and why this is important is, if we look the innovation process time in here and the characteristics, and in many cases, what I've been and many other living lab researchers has experienced is that the companies come into living lab process too late. They think that their solution is already in very good form, but when we are starting to researching it together with the users, we often realize that it's not that ready as they were thinking about. And that's why kind of, and we want to be emphasizing that you should be entering this process much more earlier, because in the beginning of this fuzzy fronted for innovation, you can make changes quite easily because they do not cost a lot, and you have a lot of possibilities to influence the outcome of the final products, because basically in the beginning of the process you will be defining the kind of the key features and logics for your solution, and further you go with the process, the more expensive it will become and more difficult it becomes to be making changes. And there are a lot of these different kind of this very famous design squiggle, which kind of shows that how, you know, the irrational the innovation process is. We were talking about previously this kind of an iterative approach. This plan, do, study, act cycle is very commonly used, especially in the quality management sector. So kind of, and we are planning what we are planning to do, and then we actually do the thing, we study, and then we act and we do the changes what are needed to change based on our study results. You can do this in the parallel, or you can do this as a sequential. And anyway, in most cases, we have some kind of a stage decision thing where we some point we have to be making a decision. Are we going to continue this work? Are we doing a new iteration, or are we killing the whole work? There are these multiple different kinds of innovation processes, like, for example, stage gates used to be very, very common, and still companies are using a lot of these kind of things. But in here, there is kind of the iterative loop between the customer feedback within each of the cases, like from ideation, concept, business cases, development, testing, and the launch. We have different versions of the living lab innovation process, where we do concept design, we do prototype design, we do the final system design. We have different kinds of design thinking processes. Then we have the famous double diamond model, and we have the variation for the double diamond, which is kind of an aligned to living lab approach, where we have the initial challenge, and we're trying to come up with the validated market proof solutions. We make sure that we develop the right thing, and then we make sure that we are developing things right. We are having this discover, explore and research phase, where we are trying to understand what the problem is. We kind of frame and conceptualize and consolidate and clarify our work. And then we will have shared vision and understanding that what we want to be doing. We create different, co-create different prototypes, we test them. And as a part of that, we are orchestrating the innovation ecosystem. We are engaging the end users, the crowd. We are using the expert and service providers. We will have the iteration between the phases. We are applying the kind of the multi-method approaches. We are generating open data in all of these phases to be able to share the knowledge with others. And then I think it's during the final slide, we have this technology readiness level that we've been also now applying to the Living Lab context. We will be talking a little bit more about the technology readiness level at the end of the presentation. But in here, we've been kind of formulating this from the Living Lab point of view. On the left-hand side, we've been defining all the phases, which is the first one is the need assessment and ideation. Then we have concept co-creation. Then we have the proof of concept, prototyping in lab, prototyping in relevant environment, demonstration in relevant environment, small-scale demonstration in operational environment, full-scale demonstration in operational environment, and the final, the 9, post-market testing and surveillance. And in here, you can see that which of the environments we are working. By the way, there's a mistake in here. And then you can see that what kind of prototypes we will have and what kind of functionality, interactivity there are within those. And we have the definitions for each of stages. And then on the right-hand side, we have the kind of what kind of an exploratory or confirmatory research we are doing within each of these stages. And what we mean by the laboratory relevant and operational environments, and like when we are doing, for example, a workshop in an office, so that's basically for us is like a laboratory environment. It doesn't necessarily always mean that it's like a scientific laboratory that we are used, what the universities used to have, but it can be, of course, that as well. And the relevant environment is some kind of a specific subset of the operational environment, which kind of demonstrates, you know, the actual environment, but in a more risk-free situation. And the operational environment is the real deal, where the actual solution will be operating as well. And then we have these kind of different prototype strategies that what we can be follow. We can be scaling, you know, the high fidelity, the low fidelity prototypes, meaning that how much features we will have, or is the full size or scaled model. Are we, you know, the prototyping the subsystem or entire system, you know, then in a situation, do we have time constraints or no time constraints or cost constraints or no constraints and so forth? Are we doing this in the virtual models or physical models and so forth? But all of this is kind of just to give you some idea about that, what we mean by the prototype. And now we will be going to the Irene's presentation about from user-centered design to the implementation science.
Okay, thank you, Temo. We just put the next slide. I wanted to talk to you about how this process with Living Labs can be enriched not only on this design and develop phases that Temo has more profoundly explained, but also the next steps after that in terms of implementation into the real world. So bringing those solutions to real people's lives and healthcare systems and other settings in the real world. Okay. But okay, next slide, please. So we have already explored this idea of user-centered design and how it's not about technical precision, but more about how our users interact with the solutions, and also how it affects their lives and their needs in whatever problem we are assessing. So next slide, please. We are now in a change of mindset around innovation. We're not designing just a product or just an intervention, but more about what our end users, sometimes patients, sometimes healthcare professionals, but all stakeholders can now be part of this process. So it's this change of mindset around what we need to assess when we are trying to start a research project or an innovation process, and so these are some examples of that. But next slide, please. So in this user-centered design environment that, as Temu has said, is not in a specific set of methods, but more as a mindset and a way of approaching design. Design thinking is one of the most popular ways of organizing these phases, this non-linear process. That is one of the key aspects that Temu has also mentioned, and how to involve users in this process as a collaborative process indeed. So just to go more profound on the phases that involve the users in a deeper way. Can you pass the next slide again? Here are some examples of techniques that are inside these phases, just from the beginning when we are empathizing with users. So, for example, doing empathy mappings, or when you are defining, we already have a problem, how we are going to define this in maybe user journey techniques or personal techniques. I don't know if you've heard of this before, and also once we have a design and a interactive prototype, we can also validate with different examples. Here we have scenarios, usability testing. These are just concrete, precise examples of what Temu has already explained. So I'm not going to go into more detail. Next slide, please. This is a library of other techniques that I encourage you to visit. It's one of my favorite resource sites that I'm always visiting to get new ideas. So just a nice reference for you. Next slide. But what I wanted to go more in detail is how the next phase can also be really enriched through the Living Lab approach, which is the implementation phase, after we already have some evidence-based and validated practices. Next slide, please. Just how do we implement this in the real world, which can be described as chaotic, but it's just complex context that we need to assess in a very different way from when we are just on a scientific research closed type of environment. So next slide. So main barriers that we can all think of when we are trying to implement these solutions into the real world, especially in healthcare settings. We have social and political barriers, cultural barriers, and also very much of a health care access inequity. So next slide. This is also has been studied, and some studies have said that there's even like a 17-year odyssey, that is how they're calling it, for research to actually reach real life settings in health. This is inside healthcare systems, but if we're thinking in more community-based settings, the gap can even be even greater than that. So this is what we want to assess and to change. this no-do gap through some new methodologies inside Living Labs. So next slide. So this is how knowledge transition comes enters the game. So trying to bridge this research practice gap through different techniques and methodologies. So we need to first document the nature and the magnitude of this gap and identify which are the root causes of it, and also design what can we do to assess those barriers. And I wanted to make this differentiation between dissemination science and implementation science, since, well, once we publish our results, our evidence-based results, there's a phase that maybe we are more aware of it in terms of trying to widespread the adoption and the awareness behind these good practice, these evidence-based practices or interventions. But then this implementation science is more focused on, once we have engaged some local stakeholders or at a specific context, this is now the process to adapt the solution or their intervention and actually embed it and accompany this process with the real life stakeholders that are working on real life settings. So this is a science of, firstly, translation, participation, and also actually business of doing actual things. So, and also that can then bring us to a more sustainable and better quality of care and more sustainable systems, and a world that is more evidence-based, fundamentally built. So next slide, please. So some barriers that we have also already mentioned, but in terms of how we have started from an abstract knowledge point and sometimes statistics and also small scale validated practices. Then when we go to these real life settings in a more large scale approach, we are working with complex systems, with unpredictable systems and volatile situations in terms of, and there's also there's different ways of defining the context here with health settings especially. And so these are just some examples of implementation strategies, specific implementation strategies that may overcome these barriers. But so we have a very big list of these implementation strategies. Next slide. There's many available classifications of these examples of implementation strategies. This is just one of them. And but the most important part is really know the context that we're working, and so we can actually decide which ones are better. So these are just some examples. Maybe next slide we can see an even more detailed classification. This is a one made by Powell B. and et al. In 2012, but maybe there's others that are more fit into your settings. This is mainly, implementation science is mainly studied in healthcare systems, but through Living Labs, I think we can actually adapt this to new, more community-based or even other types of interventions, not only inside healthcare system, but other social contexts as well. So, but this is especially defined in these healthcare interventions. And so I just wanted to show you these examples. And finally, next slide. So we've now seen how this process is a non-linear process, and we're working to also make this companionship into the implementation and in real life settings part of the process that we want to have covered. And I think Living Labs, since these techniques are also in the realm of co-creation and collaborative efforts that we have already been working so much from the ideation to the validation type of process, we need to also take into consideration this next step. And I think it would not only enrich our solutions, but also make us have better outcomes in other terms. We can see it. Next slide, please. Well, no. Firstly, I wanted to show you some more examples in again with the barriers that we may encounter once in implementation settings, and some examples of this list of implementation strategies that might overcome this. So, for example, if you are encountering lack of knowledge, educational session and training of healthcare professionals or other stakeholders, that might be a good solution. Lack of interest, of course, maybe these are kind of evident, but participation incentives can work again. This is just more examples around it. And these are examples made in our own Living Lab here in Madrid, Lightspace, which is our way of working here. It's Living Labs can actually feel like the recognizable place and setting where people approach, wherever every stakeholder can approach in a welcoming sense, and actually make this implementation a collaborative effort again until it's already implemented in the real life. But so just more of our Living Labs that you can later ask me whatever, and you're all of course invited to visit in Madrid. And just finally, some conclusions that I was mentioning right before this. Next slide. Is this idea that that Living Labs can actually make this be the orchestrators of this truly iterative process, not just until we have good practices, validated solutions, but also accompanying this to the real world. And also, so implementation science is just maybe like the other side of the coin in terms of collaboration, where when we maybe taking not the driver's seat, but we are still there working with our stakeholders, especially in healthcare, which will actually be translated into better quality of care, and better equity in health. And actually, I think it's a matter of responsibility and accountability in research for healthcare to actually finish this journey, as we are saying. But it doesn't need to be a journey. We are also working on making this iterative process again from the final phase to the beginning, and still work together. I think this can be a new approach in Living Labs as well. So this is everything. Thank you. I think next is my colleague.
Yes. Hi everyone. So I'm taking the floor to focus on specific tools that we can help us and guide us in order to increase the maturity of innovations. And I would like to start this last part of the presentation by trying to link what has already been discussed. And I would like to say here that the end goal, the ultimate goal of innovation is commercialization. So the commercialization, what we mean by that is to introduce a new service or a product into the market. And there are certain commercialization phases, which I'm going to show you in the next slide. But the important thing is that, just previous slide, please. The important thing is that for successfully commercializing the product, we need a certain mix of different strategies that has to do with producing the product, marketing correctly and successfully the product, and finally rolling out the product into the market. And next slide, please. Now, if we focus on the different phases of commercializing innovations, then we could see that innovation starts from observing research results. And then there is often a lab prototype. And this lab prototype is basically used for proving our concept, the results that we have been observing during our research. And then what we need to do is actually to assess this lab prototype in an iteration, in taking some iterative cycles of refinement. And these iterative cycles of refinement of the product or of the service will lead to a prototype that can be ideally tested within the market with a small number of potential customers. And this prototype will serve as an alpha, and after some iterations again as a beta testing, this prototype will be a minimum viable product, a product that will have the minimum set of characteristics and features that can serve the purpose, the purpose of designing this product according to what, in order to address a specific need or to solve a specific problem of a target audience. And we have several iteration cycles in this pre-commercialization process. And these iteration cycles have to do with refining the product until we are confident that the product is now designed in order to serve the needs of our potential clients. Then we need to launch the product into the market, and we need to develop strategies for scaling the product into other markets as well. Next slide, please. Now, commercialization is important for various reasons. For researchers specifically, it is important because the overall goal of research is to create an impact through knowledge, create an impact in society, and commercialization activities can sustain this impact after the funding of research finishes and ends. And then another reason of commercializing products or services is because we are addressing specific needs of the market. We are solving people's problems with new products or services that researchers design. And the ultimate goal is to create a positive impact on society. Next slide, please. But somewhere in the process of innovation, and just because it's an iterative process and it's a systemic process, one could ask, how will we know if we are on the right track for successfully launching a new product or a new service into the market? And this is a reasonable question. How can we gauge the maturity of our innovations, and how can we gauge the maturity of our efforts in successfully commercializing research? Next slide, please. We have identified two tools to present you here today for assessing the innovation potential and assessing the maturity of innovations. On the left-hand side, there is the innovation radar. This is a methodology and a framework that is developed by the Directorate General for Communication Networks, Content and Technology, that is Directorate General Connect of the European Commission. and the Joint Research Center. And this framework was initially launched in May 2014 for evaluating FP7 ICT projects. However, the framework and the methodology and the questionnaire that was designed was afterwards applied to projects funded through the European programs such as FP7 and Horizon 2020 projects. And the basic aim of the innovation radar is to identify high potential innovations and high potential innovators that are emerging from research and innovation projects. Now, the IR explores the top level status of exploitation, and having said that, it doesn't adequately address very critical information of the due diligence process. So it's an evaluation of high potential innovations, but at a more upper level. And on the right-hand side, there is the KTH tool. It has been developed by the KTH Royal Institute of Technology, and it is called the Innovation Readiness Model. This is a model that guides the idea development process and assesses the idea status across key dimensions that I will be showing you in the next slide. KTH's Innovation Readiness Model, we have to say that it can be used as a tool that can provide actually a reality check and define the progress of innovative products towards commercialization, while it helps to design short-term and longer-term goals of the commercialization process. Next slide, please. Here I'm going to explain a little bit more the innovation radar. So the innovation radar is actually embeds two composite indicators. The first one is the innovation potential indicator, and this is the outcome of 3 sub-indices. The innovation potential indicator actually assesses the market potential, and it gauges the type of innovation that is being developed, whether it is a new or significantly improved product or a service, whether it is a new or significantly improved marketing method. It also assesses IPR, standards, regulations, financing issues, etc. And it also assesses the needs in the process. So whether the innovation, what is the level of investor readiness of the innovation, if the business plan is required to be developed, if mentoring is needed to the team that is developing the innovation, etc. Then the second sub-indice that is included in the innovation potential indicator is about innovation readiness. This indicator, this sub-indice actually assesses the development phase of the project. So if it is in a pilot stage, if it is in a prototyping stage, or if it is in a demonstration stage, if there are workforce or team issues, etc. And then the third sub-indice, the innovation management, assesses if there's a need for market study, capital investment, and a few more things that I will be showing you in the next slides. Then on the right-hand side, the second composite indicator that it is assessed is the innovator's capacity indicator. This indicator assesses the environment of the organization that is producing the innovation, and it assesses the innovator's ability. It assesses the number of innovations for which the organization has been identified as a key organization for innovations, and it also assesses the innovator's environment. So it gauges how the organization engages the end users, what is the level of commitment of the end users to exploit the innovations. Next slide, please. There are 3 different categories of innovations and innovators that are distinguishing those completing the questionnaire, the Innovation Radar questionnaire. And these categories include the low potential innovations and low capacity innovators, the medium potential innovations and medium capacity innovators, and the high potential innovations and capacity innovators. The assignment to a category is based on a mean and a standard deviation. Having said that, I would like to clarify here that in order to rank the different innovation projects or the different innovators, one has to assess a series of projects, a series of innovation projects, and then be able to rank which one has the highest potential in terms of the innovation and in terms of the capacity of the innovator. And although there is a positive relationship between an innovator's capacity and the innovation potential of an organization, however, a high score on one indicator does not necessarily mean or translate into a high performance in the other indicator. It is often, and it has been observed, that high capacity innovators can deliver low or medium potential innovations, whereas on the other side, low capacity innovators were identified and capable of delivering high potential innovations. Now, improving the overall performance of the innovative output, this requires someone to focus on both the indicators, both the innovations, but also the capacity of the organization that is developing the innovation. Next slide, please. Here in this slide, we see the maturity levels according to the Innovation Radar. So to capture the maturity levels, the IAR, the Innovation Radar, identifies 4 innovation categories that are based on the respective scores that an innovation project has gained. And in the right-hand corner, at the top part, there is the optimization category. In this category, on innovations that score very high and are considered as ready for the market belong to this category. And this is about, this concerns innovations that are outperforming, that they have a certain technological maturity, that they show high commitment of the organization that is developing this innovation to bring this product or this process to the market. That's why they are considered ready for the market innovation. Then underneath, there is the creation category. In this category, there are innovations that are progressing on the technology part, and they are considered as advanced on the technology preparation, but might need some more efforts on the market side, on the business side of things, and on the commitment of the organization to bring those innovations to the market. The other category is the commitment. Here we have innovations that there is a concrete market-oriented idea on how to introduce this innovation into the market. There have been market studies conducted. There is a business plan developed. End users are already engaged, and those innovations are considered advanced on market preparation. And before those 3 categories, there is not so advanced innovations category, the exploration. And this category involves innovations which are actively exploring the value creation opportunities, and they are basically considered as getting things started. So there are more immature innovations listed in this category. Next slide, please. Here we have a screenshot of the basic question one could come across when trying to fill in the Innovation Radar questionnaire. And the purpose of showing you this slide is to familiarize you, to be more familiarized with what is expected to fill in a questionnaire, in the Innovation Radar questionnaire. So some of the questions that are addressed is whether the innovation, first you need to describe the innovation in a very short paragraph. Then you have to categorize the innovation that is developed, if it is under development, if it is already developed but is not yet being exploited, or if it is already being exploited. Every answer in this questionnaire has a score assigned, and certain mix of questions and scores give a certain give an overall score that is the score of the project that is assessed in terms of the innovation potential. Then the next question is to characterize the type of innovation. So whether it is a significantly improved product or a new product, and whether there is a significantly improved service or a new service, a process or a new process, etc. The highest score in this question gets the answer that says a significantly improved product. For example, if a project is developing a consulting service, then the score for this answer is 0. Some more questions that are included is, will the innovation be introduced to the market or deployed within a partner? Then you have to define how the researcher is planning to introduce the innovation into the market, and whether a commercial exploitation is planned. Then there's need to identify if there is a clear owner or there are multiple owners. And of course, it also asks questions relevant to the steps already done and already achieved, the milestones already achieved, and which is not yet performed, which activities is not yet performed, and where the focus should be given. For example, question number 10 indicates, it asks to indicate the steps already done, and in order to bring the innovation closer to the market. And this question includes activities like technology transfer, engagement of the research team and the business unit of the partner, if there is a business plan, if there has a marketing study has been conducted, if it is at the stage of a prototyping, if there has been a feasibility study, if there is a plan to launch a spin-off or a startup company, etc. And then question number 12 indicates which participants, which organizations participate in the development of the specific innovation. And next question is about indicating the needs to fulfill the market potential. And this includes questions like, do you have innovation readiness? Do you have a business plan developed already? Do you have, are you planning to expand in more markets, etc.? Next slide, please. Market size is also a relevant information. So the questioner asks how big is considered the market size, and what is the maturity of the market that is targeted, what are the market dynamics, and what is the level of innovation in terms of whether it is a very innovative product that satisfies a very well-known market need, or if it includes low or no innovation, but some other factors may contribute to the viability of this of the business. Market competition is also something that the innovation radar wants to gauge, and when commercialization is expected. Next slide, please. Now, it's worth to mention that if we are talking about an innovation that has been developed in a European project, a project funded by the European Commission, then the European Commission has initiated the EU Innovation Radar platform, and there a researcher can upload the results of that research and also use the service of the European Commission, the dealflow.eu, which is a service focusing on guiding the startups or the spin-offs towards market and investor readiness, and also helps in identifying potential funding sources that might help in the future commercialization of the product or the service being developed. Next slide, please. Now, I'm going to give you a few more details on the KTH Innovation Readiness Model, which was the second tool that we have identified to assess the maturity of innovations. The KTH Innovation Readiness Model is actually assessing on a scale from 1 to 9, 7 key areas of the innovation development process. So it is these 7 key areas is the customer readiness level, the technology readiness level, the business model readiness level, the intellectual property rights readiness level, the team readiness level, and the funding readiness level. So from a scale, in a scale from 1 to 9, 1 means that an innovation is at a very early stage. It is at an idea stage, we could say, or it is at the stage where we have observed the research result that seems interesting and promising for commercial exploitation. And 9 in this scale means that the innovation is fully functioning. So we have a prototype, we have a product that is fully functioning and is also introduced into the market. If an innovation exceeds the score number 4 in all 7 areas, then this means that the project's main focus should now support the commercial development of the innovation. And the assessment outcome of each innovation, as you can see, is depicted on a spider graph, as you can see here on the right-hand side, which presents the results of the scores obtained for the 6 areas of innovation development that are examined. Next slide, please. Now, in here, what we see is the differentiation of the assessment between the readiness levels 1 to 4 and the readiness levels 5 to 9. As I said before, readiness levels from 1 to 4 means that more focus should be given on developing the core idea and whether in each of these areas, for example, in the customer readiness level area, we need to understand better the customer and the users, their needs, and how their problems could be solved with our product, with our proposed product or service. In the technology readiness level, a score between 1 to 4 means that the solution is already validated in a lab environment. And at the business readiness level, this assessment area, a score between 1 to 4 means that we can describe a sustainable business model, let's say in a satisfactory level of detail. At the intellectual property level, a score from 1 to 4 means that we identify, we have described, and we have assessed the potential to protect our intellectual property. We haven't done that yet, but we have examined this potential. And at the team readiness level, the initial team to verify and develop the potential of the idea is already there, and it works towards the commercialization. In the fundraising area, when we are assessing this area and we get a score from 1 to 4, the primary focus on funding has to be verified, and we need to develop the potential of the ideas so that we can identify a viable business model. And although the original KTH model has 6 areas of assessment, the literature also supports another area, an additional area, which I have added here, and it's not included yet in the KTH Innovation Readiness Model. It is the sustainability readiness level, and a score from 1 to 4 in this area means that the sustainability concept is well embedded in the core idea of the business, and should be tested to customers, to proof test it to the customers. On the other hand side, on the right hand side, we can see what the assessment of those areas mean when we get a score from 5 to 9. At the customer readiness level, it means that we have established customer relationships and we have been conducting the pilots. At technology readiness level, it means that we are conducting field or user tests on more advanced prototypes. At the business readiness level, it means that we have defined and we have tested already a business model, including a revenue model. At the intellectual property level, it means that we have secured and we have developed complete complementing forms of IPR according to the strategy that we decided to adopt. At the team readiness level, a score from 5 to 9 means that we're continuously building the team, and we are including new members that are complementing the skills and capacities of the existing team to realize the full potential of the product that is being designed. And at the fundraising readiness level, it means that we have prepared the pitching materials and we are ready to secure funding. And on the sustainability part, the sustainability strategy is contributing to competitiveness and growth of the revenues, and it does make a proven contribution to relevant parts of the UN Sustainability Development Goals. Next slide, please. Now, in this presentation, I also have included a very analytical description of what each score means in the KTH tool. I'm not going to go into much detail on the specifics of each area. I just wanted to present only one, specifically the customer readiness level. So a customer readiness level, a score of 1, it is on the hypothesis of a possible need in the market. So we don't know yet if there is a real need to develop a product. So we're just thinking that if there is a potential need, there is a potential problem, there might be an opportunity to fix a problem, and there might be an opportunity in the market, but there is no clear hypothesis, or we don't know yet who the customers are, or what is the exact problem that exists in the market. And if the hypothesis exists, this is very unclear and very speculative, and there's no proof at this stage. And when you climb up the ladder of scores, you reach to score number 9, and this means that there is the product deployment is already widespread. There are already sales to several customers in a repeatable and scalable way. There is a large and sustainable and substantially growing number of active users. So you see the difference between scoring 1 and scoring 9 on the scale in those different areas. Ideally, when one develops the commercialization strategy, this description of the different levels of maturity can guide the innovator, can guide the researcher on what milestones there needs to be achieved in order to reach a score that it is high enough, and that we can say that contributes to the successful commercialization of a product or service. Then I would suggest to skip the next few slides, because it is the slides about all the different areas that I have explained before, with the explanations on what score 1 and score up to 9 means. And in my last slide, I would like to focus on the main reason that innovations fail. Now, this is a big discussion on why innovations fail and why innovations that are produced from research results basically often fail. And one of the reasons for this is that there is too much focus on the technology-related steps over the business-related steps. So it is very often that researchers give more emphasis on the technology side than on the business side, which is also a very important aspect of the commercialization process. And it is worth noting that 53% of the projects that plan to commercialize their innovations are either created or plan to create a prototype. So it's only 53% that is creating a prototype, and only 30% of the projects have prepared a plan to carry out a market study, whereas the business plan is on the agenda of only 27% of those projects. So you can see that the business side of things is often overlooked. There is also limited interactions with actors outside of the project. So this means that there's limited collaborations or potential synergies explored with partnerships with other companies or with other organizations. And it is quite crucial to open up the project and create more interactions with external specialized actors, such as business coaches, venture capitalists that have more condensed experience and information of how a product can be commercially exploited, and that would increase and improve the commercialization chances of those innovations. There's also limited financing. Most of the innovators see lack of finance as a barrier to exploit their innovative products or services. So good strategy is to start seeking for ways to financially support innovations early in the project, especially if it is originally funded by an EU grant, and the innovators have the vision to translate these outcomes into a viable product or a service. And then there's lack of communication. All potential exploiters of the project results needs to be on the same page and to be aligned and made aware of the support networks and tools available to support the commercialization of an innovation. And it is also necessary to establish communication channels with key stakeholders and regularly communicate all matters concerning the innovation to a wider audience in order to increase awareness of the potential benefits of the proposed products or services. So I would like to stop here. Thank you very much for listening, and I would like to pass the floor to Timo, who is going to talk to you about the homework. Thank you.
Just quickly this homework, so we will have a few minutes then for the questions and answers. So we would like you to use this innovation readiness model to kind of determine the maturity level of the innovation or the idea that which you are intending to develop the Living Lab research design, because the idea is that on the webinar 8, at the end of that, we will be presenting you the kind of the template, which includes all the key elements which you need to be, you know, the discussing or thinking about when you are doing a research plan or research design for your own Living Lab projects. So that's why it would be important that whatever innovation you are proposing, you would be understanding that what phase you are with that innovation. And if you don't have any projects, you can of course use your old projects as an example, or then define totally new project. And on the other hand, we also encourage you to use this innovation radar questionnaire also to clarify the innovation project status. And of course, if you are coming from the Living Lab, or you have in your organization, you have multiple projects, you can of course compare them by using this questionnaire. And the idea is kind of, and for this one, is that you get familiar with these tools which helps you to understand where you are. And here are the links for these instruments and of course the slide set will be available for you. But I think I will stop here, because we were saying that this will take 2 hours, and now we have only 7 minutes for the question and answers. So is there any questions in the here? Not yet in the here, but please feel free to ask questions, or are everybody so tired after listening to the talking heads for their last 2 hours? You can contact look at the chat. Would it be possible to have the reference for the slide number 98? What would be the 98? That's Paraskivi, that's yours. It's the innovation failures, the reference for that one.
Yes, actually we can insert it into the slide when we share it. It's material from the innovation radar methodology. Yeah, but I can share it in specific.
Okay. Is there anything else? Yes, and then the very important thing is that we will be sending you the satisfaction questionnaire regarding to this particular webinar, and it would be very valuable for us that you give feedback for us, and it's now on the chat, because we try to follow what we preach, that they implement your feedback to this webinar series based on if you find it useful or not useful at all, that whatever, if you have kind of some ideas about that, how to improve this, we would be welcoming those feedbacks. Most of the people are already kind of, because it's quite late already, depending on what time zone you are. But I think we are ready to finish here today. But please, like I said, fill the questionnaire, and remember the forthcoming remaining webinars almost in each week, excluding the late November and early December. There will be this webinar, and each of these topics is kind of looking a little bit different viewpoint for this whole thing. And next one would be the fundamentals of the Living Lab, and then there will be a panel management issues, and then there's about need assessment, that related things, and then a couple of sessions with the research methodologies and kind of practical guides how to do the co-creation, and the final one would be the kind of the ethical issues and the IPR issues, as well as the development of your own research design. Okay, but thank you, everybody. We are ready to go home. Okay, bye-bye.